That is forbidden, she whispered, the words barely louder than the cicadas. The rancher didn't flinch. Elias Crow stood at the fence line where Blackthorn Ranch met the town's last sacred boundary, a strip of land no one touched, no one crossed. Not since the fire. Not since the lie that kept the town breathing and afraid. The fence posts were old, scorched at the base, as if the earth itself remembered what had been taken. Mara Hale stood behind him, hands knotted in her shawl. She was the schoolteacher, the town's conscience, they liked to say. Too honest for her own safety. Too brave to stay silent. Her eyes held a storm that had followed her since she arrived, the kind that knew truth when it felt it in the bones. They'll ruin you, she said. They ruined your father for less. Elias finally turned. He was a quiet man, broad-shouldered, sun-scarred, with a gaze that weighed words before letting them live. I understand, he said. That's why I'm doing it. The forbidden thing wasn't love, or land, or blood. It was memory. Blackthorn sat on ground the town had stolen, papered over with sermons and smoke. Elias had found the ledger in his father's things. Names erased, deeds falsified, a pact signed by the men who still ran the council. The land belonged to families pushed into dust. Mara's family among them. At dusk, the church bell rang. The council would meet. Elias took the ledger and stepped through the gate. From windows and porches, eyes followed. Whispers grew teeth. By nightfall, the town would wake. When the town shook, the council chamber smelled of oil lamps and old promises. Elias laid the ledger on the table like a challenge. Pages rustled, names surfaced. Dates burned. The truth breathed again. Men rose. Voices cracked. One called it sacrilege. Another called it treason. Outside, the bell tolled again, faster now, as if counting down. Mara stood beside Elias, spine straight. When she spoke, the room leaned in. You taught us law, she said softly. You taught us right. This is both. The first stone hit the window. Then another. But something stranger happened. The families whose names had been buried began to gather. The baker. The ferryman. Women with children on their hips. Men who'd lost more than they'd been allowed to grieve. The crowd swelled, not with fury, but with recognition. Elias didn't raise his voice. He raised the ledger. The council fractured. One man fled. Another sat down hard, suddenly old. By dawn, the fence at Blackthorn lay on the ground, its posts pulled free by hands that had waited generations. The forbidden thing was no longer forbidden. At sunrise, Mara and Elias stood where the boundary had been. The land breathed. The town, shaken, learned how to stand without its lie. Some said it was the rancher's courage. Others said it was the whisper that started it, a woman brave enough to name the danger, and a man steady enough to understand it. Either way, Blackthorn remembered. And the town would never sleep the same again.